Good afternoon again. This is Madam Hilda. The lesson is courtesy of I Get Girls Group. And the other day we discussed about auxins and phototropism. Now today is auxins and geotropism. How does auxin affect geotropism or leads to geotropism mode of response? So the shoots are negatively geotropic and the roots are positively geotropic. You know that. We say that geotropism is growth towards gravity. So mostly roots grow downwards towards the gravity, and that's why we say roots are positively geotropic, whereas shoots are negatively geotropic because they are growing away from the gravity. So if you want to experiment on how auxins affect geotropism, you have to have two types of plants. Another one, you have to put a plant on a flat surface, because we've said geotropism is growth downwards, down the gravity. So if you put a seed to lie on a horizontally, you will find that if a seed is placed in an horizontal position in the dark, it has greater accumulation of auxins, mostly on the lower side, because we said auxins like staying where it is darker, not where there is light. So if you put a plant lying flat on horizontally, you will realize that the auxins will accumulate down on the lower side, because the lower side is dark, and in the darker areas is where there is a lot of accumulation of auxins. And on the lower side, gravity causes a greater concentration of auxins, so to migrate and accumulate on the lower side of the growing stem and shoot. Therefore, greater auxins concentrate on the lower side in the shoots. So faster growth will be experienced on the upper. Faster growth will be experienced more on the lower side than the upper side, which will cause the shoots to bend upward. In the roots, lower auxins concentration on the upper side promotes faster growth than on the lower side. So in the roots, there is lower auxin concentration on the upper side, so it promotes faster growth than on the lower side. Hence, the roots will bend downwards. You can see that experiment in your book, and you will realize that there is a drawing that is being shown there of a plant where the roots have started bending downwards. The reason is because high concentration of auxins are in the lower part of the root, while in the shoots you will realize that there is high concentration of auxins that promote faster growth on the lower side of the stem. So that's why you will experience that type of growth, and you will have understood how auxins affects or leads to geotropism. Another one is auxins and thigmotropism. How does auxins lead to thigmotropism? What did we say thigmotropism first is? Thigmotropism, we say that it is a growth curvature in contact with a solid object, and mostly it is experienced in plants that are having weak stems, and they are going there to look for support from those objects. So the parts of the stem in contact with the hard object has a lower auxin concentration. That part of the stem that is in contact with the hard object is the one that has a lower auxin concentration than the outer part. So contact causes lateral migration of auxins to the outer side of the stem. The part that is in contact with the object is the one that is having high concentration of auxins, whereas the outer part of the plant that is in contact with the object is having less concentration of auxins, and this will lead to lateral migration of auxins to the outer side of the stem. Since higher auxin concentration are outer sides of the stem, it will promote faster growth in the shoots. So the greater auxin concentration in the outer part causes faster growth than the part in contact with the object. Hence, the shoots will continue now to coil round that object. That's why it will lead now to coiling of a plant, of that plant with weak stem around that that object is to support it. Reason is because the auxins are highly concentrated on the outer part than the inside part of that plant that is in contact with another object. So the part that is in contact has less auxins. The part that is not in contact is having more auxins, and that's why in the shoots we will have more auxins that will lead to that plant twining around that object or another tree that is stronger for support. And we gave examples of those plants that undergo thigmotropism, and we said that plants that undergo thigmotropism mostly are those ones with weak stems, and not only weak stems, they are not supposed to be only weak stems. Another importance for thigmotropism, we said that they also give that plant to obtain maybe some plants maybe will get support. So apart from that, another thing that you need to know about auxins, we said that you need to explain importance of auxins in 3 types of tropism: phototropism, geotropism, and thigmotropism. So in phototropism, in simple ways that you can explain, you will always explain simply by saying that auxins affect phototropism, whereby auxins are mostly concentrated where it is dark than where it receives light. Therefore, when a shoot of the plant is exposed to a light from all direction, that comes from all direction, the plant will grow upward because there is no concentration of auxins in one side. That's why the plant will just grow upward straight. But when you put a plant in a box and you have a hole, so you will find that that plant will be growing towards where there is sunlight. And because that plant is bending, the auxin will move down where there is less concentration of auxin. No, the auxin will move down, then that plant will lead now to faster growth downwards, leading to that bending of the plant. So that is how auxins will have led to phototropism, because auxins concentrate on the darker side than on the light side. The same thing, you move to auxin and geotropism. Auxin and geotropism, you'll say this, that auxin also accumulate mostly on the darker side. So when a plant lies flat horizontally on a flat surface, you will realize that auxins will accumulate on the lower side. And when auxin will accumulate on the lower side, because the lower side is dark, you will find that since auxins promotes growth, there will be more growth on the roots going downwards and on the shoot moving upward, hence leading to a positive geotropism on the roots and a negative geotropism on the shoot. When you move to thigmotropism, you also say that auxins are attached, are mostly in the darker side. And the darker side in thigmotropism, you find that a plant, when it attaches itself to an object, you find that it will between the object and that plant with a weak stem, you find that it is having a lot of auxins there because that is the darker side. But the outer part will not be having enough auxin concentration. Therefore, there will be high growth in the shoots because of this auxin concentration, and you will find that plant twining. You will find that plant twining around the object. Hence, the auxin in this case have led to thigmotropism. So, just learn on how to answer questions on how does auxin does this How does auxin lead to thigmotropism? How does auxins lead to phototropism? And how does auxins lead to geotropism? So long as you've understood what is geotropism, and you realize that in all whatever we've discussed about auxin and tropism, auxins like concentrating where it is dark. If you've known that, you'll just explain by saying the darker side is where there will be more growth, and if there is more growth, that is when it will lead to either geotropism, thigmotropism, or phototropism. That's when now it will lead to this plant growth. And we will have said that plants have responded to a stimuli. Either stimuli can be gravity, stimuli can be object, stimuli can be light. And you know the names of those stimuli responses before. So for plants, generally, we are done with how plants receive and respond to stimuli. Plants receive and respond to stimuli, and we said mostly it is shown in nastic responses and in tropism. And tropism, you've known that it is a growth curvature in response to a specific or a unidirectional stimulus, whereas in anastic responses is whereby plants respond to stimulus that comes from all directions. Stimulus that come from all directions, that is nastic responses, whereas tropism is that stimulus that come from one direction leading to plant growing towards it. But for the other one is whereby it brings about response to the whole part of the plant. And before we began by taxis, and we said taxis are locomotory also responses of motile cells due to unidirectional stimulus, whereby organisms, animals respond to stimulus that comes from one direction. But now we are going to discuss more about reception, response, and coordination in animals in detail, because remember we said animals detect and respond to changes in the environment so faster. And because they respond so faster, the reason why they respond so faster is because they have a complex, their irritability or their ability to sense things is more complex than for plants. It is more complex because they have parts that help them to detect these changes in environment so fast compared to plants. And that's why we'll begin by the summary, and we'll be able to discuss on the parts of the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and we'll be able to know what are these types of responses.